Last microphone check. Can people towards the back hear me all right? I'm getting some thumbs up or fists up or something like that. That works for me. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Good Trouble Lives On rally. My name is Mitch Cohen. I'm the former chair of the select board here in Northborough, and thank you everyone for coming on behalf of GAIN, the Greater Assabet Indivisible Network. We are very happy to see you here tonight. I know it's hot today. I hope we get some shade. I hope we get some nice breezes. Early when we were setting up, the breezes were really, really nice. So, oh, there we go. I'll take that. 5 years ago today, we lost civil rights icon and leader and Congressman John Lewis. Lewis said it was important to engage in good trouble, necessary trouble, in order to achieve change, and he held to this credo throughout his life. We are here today to listen, discuss, and energize ourselves for the good trouble that is necessary to counter the attacks on our democracy. Northborough has a rich history of issues regarding civil rights. Going back to the 1800s, William Francis Allen was the son of Northborough pastor Joseph Allen. William was born here in Northborough in 1830. He was an American classical scholar, an abolitionist, and editor of the first book of American slave songs. There was an unfortunate incident 101 years ago on the hill that's right behind us on Assabet Hill. The Ku Klux Klan burned a cross right here in Northborough. On the brighter side, 5 years ago, last month, there was the very first event on this property on the brand new Northborough Town Common was a Black Lives Matter rally in memory of and in frustration of the murder of George Floyd, held here on the 10th of June, 2020. We've got some great speakers today, some great music. First, I'd like to bring up our leader of GAIN, the Greater Assabet Indivisible Network, Kay Rusk. Kay.
Hello, Northborough! We're thrilled that you're here. We are here to celebrate the life of civil rights icon and celebrated Congressman John Lewis, and to understand how his life can inspire us today when authoritarianism is quickly consuming our rights, liberties, safety nets, and democracy. There is a duality inherent in human nature, and we are now in the fight of our lives against darkness and fear. Thank you. And must heed to the voices of John Lewis and others because they represent the freedom, strength, and light that we must always aspire to. John Lewis was born in Troy, Alabama in 1940 and was the third of 10 children. His parents were poor sharecroppers, and his great-grandfather, Frank Carter, was born into slavery and lived until Lewis was 7 years old. Lewis recalled having few books in his home and remembered going down to the public library to get a library card in 1955, but was told that library cards were for whites only. Lewis met Martin Luther King for the first time when he was 18, after writing to him about being denied admission to Troy University in Alabama. They discussed suing the university for discrimination, but King warned Lewis that doing so could seriously endanger his family. Lewis decided instead to attend a historic black college. He graduated from the American Baptist Theological Seminary in Nashville and was ordained as a Baptist minister. He was only like 21 years old, and then earned a bachelor's degree in religion and philosophy from a historic black college. In 1961, Lewis became one of the original Freedom Riders. There was 13 of them, who traveled throughout the South to peacefully protest for civil rights. At age 21, he was the first of the Freedom Riders to be assaulted while in Rock Hill, South Carolina, after trying to enter a whites-only waiting room. 2 weeks later, Lewis joined a Freedom Ride bound for Jackson, Mississippi. Near the end of his life, Lewis said, "We were determined not to let any act of violence keep us from our goal. We knew our lives could be threatened, but we had made up our minds not to turn back." As a result of the Freedom Rider activities, Lewis was imprisoned for 40 days in the notorious Mississippi State Penitentiary. In an interview celebrating the 40th anniversary of the Freedom Rides, Lewis recounted the violence he and the 12 other original riders endured. In Birmingham, the riders were beaten by an unrestrained mob, including KKK members, with baseball bats, chains, lead pipes, and stones. The riders reorganized and rode to Montgomery, where they were met with more violence at the local Greyhound station. There, Lewis was hit on the head with a wooden crate. He said, "It was very violent. I thought I was going to die. I was left lying at the Greyhound station bus in Montgomery, unconscious." On March 7, 1965, a day that would become known as Bloody Sunday, Lewis helped lead 600 marchers across the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama, named after a former Confederate general, senator, and Grand Dragon of the Alabama Ku Klux Klan. At the end of the bridge, they were met by Alabama state troopers who ordered them to disperse. Instead, the marchers stopped to pray. The police discharged tear gas, and mounted troopers charged the demonstrators, beating them with nightsticks. Lewis's skull was fractured, and he bore those deep scars for the rest of his life. John Lewis, though, he never gave up. And today, the fifth anniversary of his death, we come together to honor him and peacefully protest. Several weeks ago, the big, beautiful bill was signed into law. Let me be clear. This bill will take away health care from 11 to 17 million Americans and will close rural hospitals, which will kill Americans. Food and fuel assistance for the poorest among us has been decimated, while ICE's budget has been increased tenfold, larger than the budgets of most militaries on Earth. Experts tell us that first ICE will be utilized to abduct immigrants, and then ICE will be used against the rest of us. There are 500,000 white undocumented immigrants, but they are never abducted. Climate change mitigation, including subsidies for green energy, has been demolished under this bill. America is the second highest producer of CO2, which causes global warming, and these changes will further increase temperatures, deadly storms, and flooding, which will not only kill Americans, but people around the globe. The GOP knows this legislation is very unpopular, so many of these initiatives are time delayed to go into effect after the 2026 midterm elections, and this speaks volumes. This administration is imploding our national debt, safety nets, and eventually our economy so that the wealthiest among us can receive tax breaks. We must protect ourselves and our country by staying informed, peacefully protesting, striking and boycotting in numbers so large that we cannot be ignored. Because America, the oldest democracy on earth, is losing her battle to preserve democracy. And I ask you, what would our founders who fought against a king and John Lewis, who fought so hard for equality and justice, expect from us today? We will now hear from our speakers who will detail what we are losing, but whatever we do, let's never give up on equality and unity, because there is power in numbers, and the antidote to despair is action. Northborough, we love you. Stay strong, never bow down. And again, we thank you for being here today. Thank you so very much. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Kay. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about the environment, but first, a couple of things. One, a Northborough connection with the environment. You may notice a large empty parcel on the other side of the bank here. That's where we're building our new fire station. The fire station is going to be 100% fossil free. Absolutely.
I tap dance, but I don't know how.
Okay, here we go.
Trying to help.
Yep, appreciate it. Thank you, Jim. So our Northborough Fire Station is going to be 100% fossil free, thanks in part to geothermal HVAC, which it involves drilling wells deep into the ground and using the heat of the ground and the cooling of the ground to naturally heat the building without the use of fossil fuels. Part of what allowed Northborough to implement that and make it happen, because it is kind of expensive, was the American Rescue Plan Act and a couple of other things that Biden put into place that, of course, Trump wanted to get rid of. Trump wanted to take $1 million from the town of Northborough, from the taxpayers of Northborough. Thankfully, in the big, quote-unquote, beautiful bill, we were able to hold off, and we're able to continue to get the funding that we needed to get that in place. I want to bring it back to John Lewis, who said, "Humanity is the most important endangered species under threat from climate change, and yet we flood our ecology with poisons and pollutions." I'd like to now introduce a man who knows more about renewable energy probably than anyone else I know, Northborough resident Rick Hagan.
Hello to all of you. Thank you for participating in this rally honoring the memory and career of John Lewis, making good trouble to help make this country a better place for all of us. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about climate change, and in particular floods and wildfires. Over the last few years, we have been experiencing more flooding from extended heavy rainfall and more drought-enabled wildfires than in the past. These floods and wildfires are in fact opposite sides of the same coin. The coin is human activity driving climate change. Climate change drives extremes. Dry areas get drier, wet areas get wetter. Climate change is creating more extreme rainstorms. Warmer air holds more moisture. That moisture feeds storms and then drops as rainfall. Changes to weather patterns can cause storms to stall, leading to locally severe deluges, more than some areas can readily handle, which cause flooding. Climate change also creates hotter, drier conditions in some areas that make vegetation more flammable, which fuels fires and allows them to spread faster. Rising temperatures, prolonged droughts, and changes in precipitation patterns all contribute to increased wildfire risk and severity. What does that mean for us? What have we seen with flooding? The Hurricane Harvey deluge in Houston in 2017 was the first time climate change-driven severe storms really jumped out at me, demanded my attention. They had 50 inches of rain in some areas. The impacts from climate change weren't something far off in the future. They were happening right now. Just last fall, Hurricane Helene devastated Asheville, North Carolina, as well as many other places, with torrential, rain-fed river flooding. They had as much as 15 inches of rain in a few hours. Prior to Hurricane Helene, Asheville had been considered one of the safest, least likely places in the country to be impacted by climate change severe weather. Perhaps now we should all be wondering, how safe is our hometown? Leominster, less than 2 years ago, endured nearly 10 inches of rain in a few short hours. I'm sure you all remember the video on local news of the damage done very close to here. Southern parts of Massachusetts and Rhode Island in the last week or two have seen similar flooding from heavy downpours. A week ago, Sutton, Vermont was struck with flooding for the third year in a row on the exact same day, July 10th. Climate change impacts are hitting close to home now. What have we seen with wildfires? For most of our history, there has been a fire season in California from May to October. Climate change is changing this. In California, fire season is now year-round. In January this year, the Los Angeles area suffered devastating wildfires that ravaged the Palisades and Altadena communities, consuming 40,000 acres of homes and driving families into homelessness, facing years of delay to get their homes back. Canada has been experiencing warming at more than twice the rate of the rest of the world. These rising temperatures have reduced their winter snow, produced shorter and milder winters, and set up earlier summer conditions, all of which promote wildfire. I suspect you all remember the smoky haze over our communities from the Canadian wildfires in 2023. It is happening again this year, this last week. climate change impacts are really hitting close to home now. What does the Trump administration have to say about this? Chris Wright, the Trump administration's Secretary of Energy, recently said in The Economist, the periodical, quote, "We will treat climate change as what it is, not an existential crisis, but a real physical phenomena that is a byproduct of progress. I'm willing to take the modest, negative trade-offs for this legacy of human advancement." I guess at least it's good that he acknowledges that climate change is real, but he thinks it's not an existential crisis, that it's got a moderative, negative trade-off? Hang on, how does that square with events in the real world? Hurricane Harvey caused more than 100 deaths and $125 billion in damage and forced evacuation of 155,000 homes. Hurricane Helene caused 219 deaths and $80 billion in property damage, including more than $20 billion in uninsured flood losses. Those people are in a lot of trouble. The flooding in Texas earlier this year has led to more than 100 deaths and at least $20 billion in damages. The wildfires, actually these are better called firestorms. The firestorms that devastated the Palisades and Altadena caused 30 deaths and more than $57 billion in property damage, including destroying 40,000 acres of homes. Over the last 10 years, the U.S. has seen 190 separate billion-dollar weather and climate disasters. These have killed more than 6,300 people and cost $1.4 trillion, that's with a T, trillion dollars in damage. And that rate of damage appears to be accelerating. This seems more than modestly negative. The current impacts and the ongoing acceleration feel existential to me. To make matters worse, the Trump administration is taking active steps to slow the energy transition to clean, reliable, renewable power and reduce support from the federal government to communities impacted by weather and climate disasters. The Trump administration has fired FEMA employees, and they are scaling back funding for future relief efforts. What's more, Trump himself is willing to declare disasters and release funding to states that supported him in the last election, like Texas for the recent flooding disaster, while withholding disaster relief and funding from states that didn't support him, like California for the LA fires from earlier this year. The One Big Beautiful Bill recently passed also undoes nearly all the federal incentives and support for the renewable energy transition previously on the books. Not only will this slow down the transition in the U.S., but also it cedes leadership in renewable energy to the Chinese. This will be the first time in generations that the U.S. will not be a global leader in an important and newly emerging technology. Regardless of what the U.S. does with renewable energy now, the rest of the world will be forging ahead, leaving us behind. So who gets harmed? It's more than just victims of flood and wildfire, more than people with lung disease affected by wildfire smoke. Let's start with many of you. Climate change-driven severe weather is driving up the cost of insurance. Not just home insurance, but car insurance too. And it's happening here in Massachusetts, not just in Florida, Texas, or California. Higher temperatures also impact the health and safety of anyone working outdoors. The construction trades, farm laborers, roofers, landscapers, etc. We can expect to see more of them experiencing heat-related illness. And of course, it impacts the most vulnerable in our society. The cost of procuring and operating air conditioning in the home can be particularly burdensome on low or even moderate income folks. And for those who can't get access to home cooling, we will see more heat-related illness and death. Our elders are particularly vulnerable to the heat. Given what the federal government won't be helpful for the next several years, what can we do? Well, we can start by extending our hand to help those who've been harmed by flooding or wildfires. Donations of any sort, financial, material, or time, are always useful. You can extend yourself. Electrify everything in your home when the chance presents. You will find, as I have, that what may be a larger upfront cost will pay for itself in short order through lower operating costs. But you can also make good trouble. Make good trouble through your participation and support of rallies and other events like this one. Make good trouble by advocating for energy assistance programs with all levels of government and the utilities. Letters, email, and whenever possible, physical presence at meetings where these programs are being discussed will definitely help. Finally, make good trouble by discussing climate change and its impacts with friends and family, even those, maybe especially those, who refuse to accept this reality. Calm, consistent, Short discussions over an extended period of time have been found to be the most effective at bringing folks around. Always change the subject, perhaps with a laugh or a joke, if the discussion is becoming emotional. Don't become emotional in such discussions. We're looking for good trouble.
Thanks so much, Rick. Before we continue, I want to make sure everybody knows they should not get dehydrated here. We have free water, both room temperature, if you will, and cold, underneath the tents. If you're thirsty at all, please go ahead. Grab some water. Next up, I want to invite an advocate for gender-affirming healthcare and a member of the Mass Health Advisory Committee to share her very powerful and personal story. Chrissy Bates. Chrissy, come on up.
Hey Northborough, I'm Chrissy Bates, and I stand here inspired by John Lewis, the hero of good trouble who fought for justice and equity. As an activist, independent consultant, Mass Health Advisory Committee member, Westboro Democratic Town Committee member, and vice chair of the Massachusetts Young Democrats Women's Caucus, my story is about survival and advocacy for the LGBTQIA community, Medicaid recipients, and ending youth homelessness. So I grew up in Northeast Connecticut's quiet corner in a strict Catholic home, feeling my body didn't match my soul. Poverty and homelessness hit hard. By 16, I used apps like Grindr to survive, trading sex for food or shelter. Predators saw a vulnerable gay kid and exploited me, making me feel like a throwaway, as shared by GBH Boston and the National Human Trafficking Hotline's website. But like John Lewis, who faced brutality, yet kept fighting, I refused to give up. In May 2024, I made history as the first trans woman to receive gender-affirming vaginoplasty at UMass Memorial Hospital in Worcester, covered by Medicaid and Medicare. Yep, that's right, I have a vagina. That surgery aligns my body and soul, giving me hope. But that hope is under threat. The one big, disgusting bill passed by Republicans in July 2025 slashes $1 trillion from our Medicaid system, risking healthcare for 12 million people, and this is from a nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office. This isn't about saving money, it's about division. John Lewis had such a great way of warning us about these tactics that pit communities against each other. The right uses trans people like me as targets to sow fear, distract from the real goal, gutting our programs for the vulnerable to fund tax breaks for the rich. The bill hurts everyone. Trans folks needing hormones, parents needing doctor visits for their children, rural towns losing hospitals, entire hospitals. In rural areas, 22.5% of people rely on Medicaid. Without it, communities are going to collapse. Some of us resort to black market hormones. In Worcester County, the 2024 Massachusetts youth count found 80 homeless youth under 25, 49 in the city of Worcester alone, with 80% needing stable housing, but only 34% ever getting the help that they need. We need shelters and affordable homes in every town in Worcester County, from Athol to Southbridge. This bill divides the LGBTQIA plus community from others, but we fought back with good trouble. Think of Stonewall in 1969, when trans women like myself and Marsha P. Johnson, right, sparked a movement, or the 80s when ACT UP demanded AIDS treatment and respect for AIDS patients. Those united fights, inspired by Lewis's legacy, changed the world. As a Democrat, I support Medicaid expansion, which halved uninsured rates and helped 50,000 people get gender-affirming surgeries from 2016 to 2020 per Columbia University. But this bill could dismantle it, leaving 30 million Americans without insurance if the Affordable Care Act collapses. This is not about trans people. It's rural hospitals in Georgia closing, leaving 600,000 people without care. Despite 91% or it's the moms in Texas losing Medicaid over unfair work rules. Despite 91% of Medicaid's users are already working, often in jobs without health benefits. In Worcester County, 3,110 people, including 1,300 children and 80 youth, face homelessness in 2025, and that number is up 20% from the year before. So while rent averages $2,205 in Worcester County, it's probably much higher in Northborough. That's $2,205 a month for a one-bedroom unit. This is the time we need good trouble now to expose these divisive tactics, which are not lowering rent cost. If Medicaid helped you with meds, therapy, or even a surgery, tell people about it. Talk to your friends and neighbors. Tell them how much Medicaid has helped you. Show what's at stake: our healthcare, our homes, our lives, our dignity, our integrity. We're not throwaways, Northborough. We're fighters. Again, thank you, everyone. And again, I'm Chrissy Bates, and I'm becoming more me every day. Let's build a world where every young person in Worcester County and every American can say the same. Thank you.
That was powerful. Thank you so much, Chrissy. John Lewis, as we've heard tonight, and as most of you know, participated in many marches in the civil rights battle. He documented those in a 3-volume graphic novel set, believe it or not. If you haven't seen it, it's called March, books 1, 2, and 3. And then he followed up with another graphic novel called Run, about his transition from marching to political office. Those books can be found in some of the best libraries around, including our Northborough Free Library right down the street. John Lewis spoke a bit about libraries as a youth. He wrote, "In 1956, when I was 16 years old, with some of my brothers and sisters and cousins going down to the public library trying to get a library card, and we were told the library was for whites only and not for coloreds. Libraries are under attack again. John Lewis's books are being pulled out of libraries all over the country. We have with us today an expert in the library system. Anna Gold will speak to us about the authoritarian attacks on information, including censorship, and the importance of good information to democracy. Anna, come on up.
That was a wonderful shout out to libraries, thank you, but it's also a wonderful reminder that things were not always the way they are today. I did want to start out myself with a shout out to our libraries and librarians in our communities. Our public libraries, including Northborough's library, are a treasure. Our state library system here in Massachusetts is among the best in the country. Our librarians here are courageous professionals. They offer spaces where we can meet in community, share books for every age, background, interest, language. Our libraries give us spaces that are free of judgment, but full of critical thinking. They respect our privacy, they celebrate and inspire our imaginations, and they stand up to attempts to ban books. So a thank you, round of thanks to our Massachusetts libraries. Very proud. So reaching way back, when I became a librarian, it actually wasn't because I loved books, although I did, and I do, I assure you. But I became a librarian because I believed that information is a powerful social force for good, especially when it's shared, and I still believe that. Information is absolutely vital to a healthy democracy. It feeds good trouble. You can tell that here. This is among, the information here that we're sharing today. It's incredible. It's feeding our good trouble. It brings us together. It provides a common understanding of reality, which sounds like it should be easy, but hey, not so easy anymore. That's the ground under our feet that makes it possible for us to negotiate with each other, compromise, and achieve our common purposes. So precisely because of all that, good information is under tremendous siege in this administration, as I'm sure you all know. It's being defunded, it's being censored, it's being erased. So we'll talk about defunding briefly. Funding for libraries and research are both being gutted. Cutting off library funding means cutting off citizen access to those e-books and regular books and journals and newspapers and ideas, information. Killing off the NSF or NIH funding or university research means something more. It means cutting off information at the roots, where new information and knowledge is being made. Funding for public broadcasting, as you know, has been rescinded. Yesterday, the Senate voted to claw back, love that term, it makes me think of a cockroach or something, I don't know, claw back $1.1 billion in funding for our public broadcasting. They were accused of being left wing, but this is hurting mostly local broadcasting stations that serve the entire country. Then there's erasure and censorship. As you may know, just 2 weeks ago, July 1st, the national climate assessments, which are legally mandated, they disappeared from the federal websites that were built to display them. Thankfully, they've been preserved by non-government entities, the Internet Archive, the private mapping company, Esri. Obviously, erasing the report doesn't erase the truth of climate change, a shared and existentially consequential truth that we need to face and act on together. But erasing this information makes it harder for citizens to access vital information. Censorship takes many forms. We know about book banning in the libraries of our military academies and libraries around the country. There was the punishing of AP for their refusal to rename the Gulf of Mexico. Incredibly, our most powerful media outlets have paid Trump millions of dollars to settle suits he's filed because their reporting made him look bad. That's a kind of censorship, isn't it? But there's also the terrifying phenomenon of self-censorship. Fear of information bullying causes the most powerful media enterprises on earth, from the New York Times to the BBC, to obey in advance, as Tim Snyder calls it. I'm going to talk about a most egregious example. A major news media, including the New York Times, censor the language that they use to describe what's happening in Gaza. It turns out that in 2024, the New York Times instructed its reporting staff to avoid using terms such as genocide, ethnic cleansing, occupied territories in its reporting on the war, and to avoid using words like slaughter and massacre. Yet, for more than a year, authorities and scholars around the globe have overwhelmingly judged Israel's war against Gazans to be genocide. The fear of blowback from Trump and other authoritarian voices accusing them of anti-Semitism is surely a factor in this otherwise unfathomable refusal to call a thing what it is. And if you don't believe what's happening in Gaza is genocide, you're not paying attention. 2 days ago, 145 Gazans were murdered by U.S. military contractors who fire on them as they try to get food aid for their families. Today it was only 93. Attacks on information also take a form that I will call information abuse. It's making information toxic or untrustworthy. We all experience the toxic impact of how this administration intentionally floods the zone with breaking news all day long, every day. It's overwhelming. It numbs us. It's meant to freeze us into inaction or to rouse us to anger. We need to resist both. Then there's the lying. Shameless, unhinged public lying began years ago with Trump's fake news and alternative facts. Remember being shocked in 2016? We should still be shocked. Then there's propaganda. It's another weapon of information abuse by authoritarians. Propaganda is what tyrants offer instead of information. It looks like information, but it makes people angry and it makes them blame others. It makes them understand only one idea, one voice. But here's the thing about information. It's powerful in our hands too. The best vaccine against lies, propaganda, and censorship is citizens like you taking the time to find, critically assess, and share good evidence and information. We can recognize and call out the lies, the propaganda, and the censorship. We can be truth tellers, and we can support the honest brokers, the courageous witnesses, and journalists. We can read and support them. I support The Guardian, Democracy Now!, and Zateo. You have your own favorites, I'm sure. There are many, many good information voices worth our support. We can pay attention to evidence and we can amplify it using our own voices. Informed action is the only truly free action. It's what gives us the ability to choose differently, not based on threats, ignorance, or someone lying to us. As informed citizens, we can engage in information activism, spread good information, talk with friends and family, write letters and opinions, support research and a free press. When we do this, we empower ourselves and each other. As Jason Stanley says, ignorance hinders free, informed action. Without knowledge, we cannot act. So as much work as it is, we have to pay attention to information. We have to make the time to understand it, question it, and then share it. I call this information citizenship. It's one of our obligations in a democracy. So be well informed, be good informers, and empowered by good information, we're going to make good trouble. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Anna. Next up, we're going to hear some words and some music by someone who knows good trouble very, very well. Jim Scott is a composer, a poet, and a performer, a grant recipient from the National Endowment for the Arts, and a great example of good trouble. He's been arrested for civil disobedience protesting nuclear proliferation in Nevada and in Florida. He's here with us today to share a few words and a beautiful song. Jim, come on up.
Hi everyone. I brought the speakers, so they let me sing a song. I have a little bit to say too. They said I could talk as well. I forgot the strap for the guitar to stand up and sing, so I'm going to sit down and be a little less nice visual. It's been about 60 years since the first time I marched with a civil rights march in 1965 in Rochester, New York. I've been doing this for a long time, and thank you. And I was in the Army. Okay, thank you for your service. And then and I played with the Paul Winter Consort for years. I've been an environmental activist for years, and often out with the marches, and I've got the battery-powered speakers, which is kind of like having a pickup truck. You know, everybody asks you. So here's what I think. It's great to get out here and everybody vent and, you know, what just happened, what a terrible thing, and we're going to vent and show our anger. Yeah, we got to hold the line. But we have to be careful to not become us and them. There are people driving by, I'll bet, who think we're them already. We're defined by the opposition, and we got to make sure that doesn't happen. We can be teachers and we can be diplomats. It's not easy at all. Of course, what we got to do in the next 16 months, a little less, 473 days we have to change the Congress. That's our job, I think, right now. And we got to be teachers. Yes, enrolling new voters, that's one thing, but talking to the person that you didn't want to relate to, you know, that uncle. Okay, we'll still let you live in the attic, but you got to talk. You know what I mean? This is no fun. It's slow. It seems like you'll never get anywhere, but it works. I heard an actor playing a diplomat on the radio. In a movie. I'll bet you saw the movie too. I can't remember. And he says, diplomacy, it never works. Doesn't work. Never works. Doesn't work. Until it does. That's it. This is possible. You know, we ended slavery. We got the 8-hour day. We stopped the hole in the ozone layer. Things like that. These things, this can be done. We've got an onslaught now like we never thought we'd have. We never thought we'd have to do this, but we do. So, thanks for listening to that. I am waiting in the silence. I am waiting for the dawn. I am often found in reverence, though from many sources drawn. It is not mine to fight for justice, for it will not be won this day. I am peace, and I am waiting for the lost to find their way. You'll not find me set in judgment of the vain or of the weak, but I rise to meet the weary with the solace that they seek. Still I have not fed the hungry, nor strewn wealth among the poor. I am peace, and bring but mystery, and the patience to endure. I cannot save the suffering from their anger and their pain. Only open doors of insight, so the healing comes again. To the proud I am elusive, to the humble I am near. May the broken rise and look beyond the trappings of their fears. I am found among the seasons, autumn's death and spring's rebirth, as relentless their momentum as the turning of the earth. All are welcome in my presence, for only love can conquer hate. I am peace, and for the harvest I have planted and will wait. Down pretty low.
Can you bring the mic down for you?
Yeah, thanks. We're those roadies when you need them. Uh-oh. You might need to turn the bass down just a little bit on that. And, I'm sorry, can you hand me the, oh, it's right there. Oh, thank you. Pardon me, this is gonna make a noise. Can't leave these things alone for a minute. I wondered what I could play for you. Well, of course, I could self-promote and do my own songs, but I went on the 50th anniversary of the Selma to Montgomery March. And I got to play at Martin Luther King's church at the end of the march in Montgomery. Here's a few of the songs that John Lewis would have been buoyed up with. The way I heard him at Emma King Memorial Church. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. To that land where I'm bound. Over my head, I hear music in the air, music in the air. Over my head, I hear music in the air, music in the air. Over my head, I hear music in the air. There must be a heaven somewhere. For John, over my head, I hear trouble in the air. Over my head, I hear trouble in the air. Over my head, I hear trouble in the air. There must be a heaven somewhere. Peace is flowing like poison up to the brain. Everybody can help. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. I'm gonna let it all around the world now, all around the world. I'm gonna let it shine. This little light all around the world. I'm gonna let it shine. All around the world. I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. I'm gonna let it. Sing it like you did at camp now. This little light of mine, this little light of mine. Gonna let it. I'm gonna let it shine. This little light. This little light. Can't hear you. This little light of mine. This little light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine. 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 Let it. I'm gonna let it shine all around. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. I'm gonna let it shine. I'm gonna let it shine. I'm gonna let it shine. Thank you. Carry on, everybody. Craig was sitting on the ground. Oh, excuse me for that.
Wow, thank you so much, Jim. That was beautiful. Now it's time to talk a little bit about action. How many of you turn on the TV, watch a little news, and you want to yell at the TV, or throw something at the TV, or chuck it right out the window? Todd Palmer wanted to do that. Todd's a self-proclaimed radical left lunatic and founder of the Action Brigade for Gain, to tell us a little bit about his steps and his process for what to do next. Come on, Todd.
Thanks, Mitch. Hi, everybody. I'm Todd. I'm a middle-aged, married, middle-class, white guy. I've always voted, but I donated to causes, not to politicians. I certainly wasn't very politically active. Before this inauguration, I was concerned. After the inauguration, my worst fears were confirmed. They were doing Project 2025, and Trump was clearly trying to become a dictator. I didn't know what to do, but I thought of the two young Tennessee legislators who, after a school shooting in Nashville, protested their colleagues simply by holding up a sign that said, "Do something." I didn't know what to do about Trump 2.0, but I vowed I was going to do something. I started going to protests. I found my way to Indivisible, and I joined our local chapter. I protested around Worcester, Westborough, Northborough, Boston, and then in April, I traveled to DC for the Hands Off rally. It was awesome. I called my senators and my congressmen. I felt better because I was doing something, not just yelling at the TV anymore. Some of my friends and family didn't understand. They still don't understand why I'm doing this. I tell them because this is different. Everything that makes America great is under attack. I refuse to accept this, and so I am going to do something. Do I have to do this? I don't. I'm a middle-aged, middle-class white man in Massachusetts. I'm probably going to be just fine. So why me? Well, I'm going to tell you why me. And I'm going to need some audience participation soon. I'm not on Social Security, and I'm not even eligible for another decade, but it makes me angry when I see field offices being closed and personnel being fired. And I refuse to live in a country where we don't take care of our seniors, so I am going to do something. I don't have any daughters, and my wife is beyond her childbearing years, but I refuse to live in a country where we deny women life-saving reproductive care, including abortion, so I am going to do something. I'm not gay, and I don't happen to have any LGBTQ plus people in my family, but I refuse to live in a perverse version of America where we accept aggression against people based solely on who they are, so I am going to do something. I'm not a person of color, but I refuse to live in a country where we act as if diversity is a weakness when I know it's a strength, where we deny the existence of terrible events in our history, where we decry DEI hires so we can have unqualified, racist idiots serving in crucial roles in our government. And I know all DEI actually means is don't employ idiots where there's a qualified woman or person of color who can do the job. So I am going to do something. I'm not an immigrant, but I know that America is a nation of immigrants, and I refuse to live in a country that doesn't live up to the ideals that are on our Statue of Liberty. And I know we need an immigration policy that makes sense and a border that is secure. But I refuse to accept goons in unmarked cars, dressed in military gear, without badges, without warrants, without identification, without body cams, snatching people off of the streets and whisking them off to some foreign prisons or alligator Auschwitz without due process. So I am going to do something. These people piss me off. I'm not a veteran, but I believe the people who serve this country deserve our gratitude, our respect, and a functioning VA. And I refuse to accept that we have a draft-dodging commander-in-chief who thinks that the people who serve this country are suckers and losers. So I am going to do something. I've been fortunate. I've never been on SNAP, also known as food stamps, but I refuse to live in a country, supposedly the richest in the world, where children go hungry to give tax breaks to people who already have too much. So I am going to do something. I've never been a federal worker, but I believe our federal workers do many things that we seldom think about. And I refuse to live in an America where our federal workers get fired by an email from some 20-something hacker named Big Balls, so I am going to do something. I have 2 sons, and they're now done with school, but I am enraged that we now have an administration that wants to dismantle the Department of Education, and the Supreme Court on Monday of this week said that they can proceed, that it's fine I refuse to live in an America that doesn't believe that all children deserve a quality education. So I am going to do something. My wife and I are both college educated, and I went to an Ivy League university. And you know what? I know firsthand that they don't teach any such thing as woke ideologies. That is a load of crap. And I refuse to live in an America that denies the value of our universities that have been essential for American prosperity and innovation. So I am going to do something. I've never worked in healthcare, but it makes me absolutely furious that we have an anti-vax profiteer in charge of our public health. And I refuse to live in an America where children die of measles and other preventable diseases while we have vaccines. So I am going to do something. I'm no expert on foreign policy, but I know that Ukraine is our ally, that NATO is the most important alliance that we have ever had, that Russia is our adversary, and Vladimir Putin and his dictator buddies are not our friends. So I am going to do something. I'm not Palestinian, but I know that the people in Gaza are people, and they deserve the same human rights as all people. And I refuse to live in an America that actively promotes forced migration and provides weapons to genocidal regimes. So I am going to do something. I never negotiated a trade deal, but I refuse to live in an America where we attack our trading partners, first amongst them our friends Canada and Mexico, with a trade war that they did not ask for and they do not deserve. So I am going to do something. I have no illusions that I can stand on a sidewalk for an hour with a sign and change the world. No single phone call, letter, email, petition, postcard, or rally will be the one that changes it all. But we are here on the 5th anniversary of John Lewis's death. And I wonder if when John Lewis marched across that bridge in Alabama 60 years ago, if he thought that that would be the last thing that he would ever have to do to change it all. He knew that it wouldn't. But he believed that if enough Americans would rise up and make good trouble in enough places for long enough, that there was no way that they could be stopped. We're in another fight over the future of this country. There are only two outcomes in this fight. We can either save democracy or America will become a dictatorship. We each only have two choices. We can either do something or we can do nothing. That means there's only 4 possible ways that this plays out. The first, I do nothing and democracy just might be saved anyway. Wouldn't that be nice? Who's going to do my part? Can I write them a check? It isn't happening, people. And Congress has shown us that they are not going to save us, and the Supreme Court, give me a break, they're complicit. The second way this could pan out, I do nothing and we become a dictatorship. I know that I can't live with that outcome. Absolutely not. Can you? For sure, if we all do nothing, that is what's going to happen. The third way this can play out, I can do something and we become a dictatorship anyway. Can I live with that? At least I will have stood up for what I believe. My future grandchildren might someday ask me, where were you when democracy died, Grandpa? And I want to be able to tell them, I was on the front lines. I did something. I made good trouble. And the fourth, the last way that this can possibly play out, I do something and democracy is saved. That's why I'm here. That's why we are all here. And that's why we all need to be here for as long as it takes. Thank you. I started this speech by telling you who I am. I'm going to end it by saying that if you were like me, a relatively privileged white man or white woman, relatively well off, not yet directly retargeted by this regime, that now is the time that we must stand up for others who are under more threat than we are. And if we all make enough good trouble in enough places for long enough, then we can win. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Todd. Wow. Let's do something. Think to yourself, what is it that you're going to do next? You're going to make some phone calls, you're going to write postcards, you're going to knock on doors, go to nonviolent protests, march, speak at events, meet with others, learn and teach, boycott bad businesses, run for office, support candidates, support good legislation like the Massachusetts Safe Communities Act, and cause good trouble. What are you going to do? I want you to take a minute. Talk to the person next to you who you don't know. Introduce yourself. Say, hi, I'm Mitch Cohen. Don't say you're Mitch Cohen. Say your name. Say, I'm thinking about writing a postcard, or I'm thinking about giving a speech. Take a minute and do that. We'll be right back. All right, thank you very much. Mental health is something that is important to talk about. We're all struggling with sadness and anger about what's going on in our country. Our next speaker, Dave Chin, is a retired school adjustment counselor here to talk about how hard this is on everyone and about building community to help ourselves and others. Dave.
All right. Thank you for coming. That means you're standing up. That means you are patriots. Fear, anxiety, uncertainty about our future, uncertainty about our democracy. It's at an all-time high, I think. So what do we do about it? Number one, always need self-care, right? Take that time for yourself. What will happen is when fear overwhelms you and you go and isolate yourself, that's when it becomes a big problem for everybody. Number two, we need to continue to build community in Northborough, and I have to say we have a very good community. So I want to send out props, praise to Susie Cislika and the Community Affairs Committee. They are the group of volunteers that helps to provide many of the town gatherings, like the tree lighting, menorah lighting, like the kindness event that we had in February that spilled into March and April. These kinds of activities are so important, and you can help. You can help build community. Another item that's really good that you need to know about, if you don't already, are community meals based at Trinity Church in Northborough that happen every Wednesday night. The purpose is twofold: to feed people and to provide a place for social interaction, to meet. They're building community there. I think that the numbers are increasing of people that have come back to community meals since the pandemic. And I suspect there's going to be a greater need as we continue. So what does this mean to you and me? What this means is you have a chance for community. If you need to go for a meal, if you need to talk to somebody, go there. Do something. You can donate food. You can cook food. See, there are a number of churches and civic groups who all come at different weeks and do this out of the kindness of their heart. You can be a part of this. Again, I suspect that we will need more of this going forward. So know that you're welcome. Join in. Finally, what you're doing today, continue that. You're standing up, even when you're sitting. Speak out. Go to rallies. Talk with other folk. This is important because if we sit back, who is going to do it? You are the constructive minority at this point. No one asked you to be here, you came here. I didn't ask for all this, but we have it. We can't deny it. We are the ones that need to act to save our democracy. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Dave. Next up, we've got an engineer. Not to talk about engineering, but to talk about our relationship with our closest neighbor to the north, Canada. Chris holds dual citizenship and is here to talk about that troubled relationship. Come on up, Chris.
Thanks so much, Mitch, and thanks to all of you coming out here. Whenever I come to these things and see all these signs, I really love them. The imagination that you all have is outstanding. So, my king, I have a king. My king is an environmentalist. He's a tree hugger. He is a patron of the World Wildlife Fund. He doesn't call his territories shitholes. He loves the people in Africa. He loves all his subjects. I'm a Canadian. I love King Charles as I love Queen Elizabeth. There are good kings. Remember, there are good kings. And we're different. So I'm a Canadian. My mother and father were born and raised in Canada. My older brother and sister were born and raised in Canada. And then at one point before I was born, the United States government decided that my father ought to be working for the United States, made him an offer he could not refuse, and forced my family to move to the United States. Shortly after that, I was born. And when I was born, I thank the day that my parents registered me with the Canadian consulate and established my Canadian citizenship for my life. I also, being born in the United States, under the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, some people don't believe in it, even though they swear to uphold and defend it. There are people who don't believe in it, but the 14th Amendment to our Constitution says that anybody born in the United States is an American citizen. So I have dual citizenship, as Mitch said. Some time ago, I decided that I would stay in this country and live in this country with my family. I don't regret that. I have always loved this country until about 2016. I've always felt very comfortable with it. But things started changing in 2016, and things got a little bit different, and it was very scary when that happened. Prior to that, I'd go back and forth across the border like I was crossing the sidewalk here. There was no issues about crossing the border. We had the longest undefended border of any two countries in the world between Canada and the United States. It was no big deal to go across the country. They'd stop you, they'd say, where were you born? Where are you going? How long are you going to be here? When you came back in, it was, where were you? How long were you here? Welcome back to America. That's no longer the case. I'll tell you a story about that shortly. My mother, a long time ago, got sold a bunch of mangrove swampland in the Yucatan Peninsula. It turned out to be Cancun. It was a good deal after all. And she's since died, and my wife and I have the property. So we go to Cancun for about 3 or 4 weeks every winter time in February or March. As you can imagine, this is a place where there's people that have money and wealth, and it's a very right-wing leaning group of people that are there. I'd say about half of them are Americans, maybe a third are Canadians, and the other people are all from other different countries. But there was never any talk of politics. There was never any knowing that. You would never know where everybody stood until 2016. And I remember going there one year and seeing a bunch of bozos in their red MAGA hats with their FBI, Federal Breast Inspector shirts, the typical ugly American. And it was disgusting to see that. And it made me ashamed to be from the United States. That all changed when Joe Biden was elected. Hopefully we thought things were going to be better. That was the end of Donald Trump. We'd never see that again. But that wasn't the case. And it remained a place where the few of us in Cancun that leaned a little bit left, that were Democrats, we'd meet in dark corners and whisper to each other about things because it really wasn't safe and people didn't agree with us. Most people were right-wing Trumpists. That all changed this year, and I was shocked to see how that changed this year. This was in February, so it was right around tariff time, and all of a sudden, the Canadians, who never say anything, were speaking out and saying stuff. The Trump supporters were, gee, I'm sorry, I'm ashamed, and apologizing to people. And all of a sudden, it became okay to speak out against Trump. I had never seen this in 45 years of going to Cancun for a month. That had never happened to me, and all of a sudden, it started to happen. And on the day when Donald Trump had the president of the Ukraine as a guest to the White House and then lambasted him in front of the cameras, along with that little idiot J.D. Vance, who's got less than a half a brain, I'm sure, going ahead making fun of a guy that they put in the trouble when Donald Trump tried to bribe him. That was over the top, and it was amazing. I saw an incredible change in the attitude for people. The Four Nations hockey tournament was going on. Very big deal if you're Canadian. In fact, there is no bigger deal in the world than the Four Nations hockey tournament. And all the Americans were saying, I'm cheering for Canada, I'm cheering for Canada. And it was very strange to see this change in attitude that was happening all of a sudden. And it was overwhelming. And I thought, okay, this is something. Things are getting a bit better. We finished our vacation. We're coming across the border, come into the United States, and I had been given this hat when I was in Cancun by a friend of mine from Thunder Bay, and I kept it on the entire time I was there. I didn't want anybody thinking I was American. I wanted everybody thinking I'm Canadian, and I'm glad I had this hat. Anyways, we're coming through the border crossing into the United States at Logan Airport, and used to, where have you been, how long have you been, welcome home. And this guy looks at me and makes a joke about the 51st state. Now, I've been going back and forth across the border for 74 years, and border guards don't worry me, don't bother me. And I lit into this guy. Who the hell do you think you are? That's not funny. I'm sorry, I was just making a joke. It's not a joke, it's not funny, and you should be ashamed to be representing the United States of America as a border crossing guard and making such asinine statements. The problem is, thank you, I keep hearing that. This morning, a bunch of guys I know I was playing golf with, and somebody said something again about 51st state. And the ignorance, the stupidity of people thinking that is funny, it is just disgusting. I can't tell you how much as a Canadian, hearing the President of the United States talk about 51st state, Governor Trudeau, it's very disgusting, it's very offensive to Canadians. And what I hope to convey to you today is a bit of an understanding about what other countries think of Donald Trump, what other countries think of Americans, and what they have done with this. I'm almost at a loss for words for what's going on. My family all lives in Canada for the most part. I read the Toronto Globe and Mail for my news every morning, and this is where I get most of my news. And I've been amazed. I don't know how many people know what happened with the election in Canada this past year, but the government of Pierre Trudeau, who was the Liberal leader of Canada for decades, was in big trouble. People didn't like some of the things he was doing, and the Conservative Party was getting to be very, very strong in Canada. Mr. Poilievre was the Conservative candidate, and he was ahead by about 20 points leading up to the election in Canada. Trump came in. Trump talked about tariffs. Trump started talking about Governor Trudeau. Trump started talking about the 51st state, and things changed. The election in Canada went from 20% for the Conservative Party to an overwhelming 5 to 10% victory for the Liberals. Mr. Carney came back in again, and Mr. Poilievre, the Conservative candidate, not only lost his bid to become Premier, Mr. Poilievre lost his seat in Parliament. And he's going to have to move from Quebec, and he is moving from Quebec to Alberta, which is akin to Texas. But he's moving to Alberta just to get back into Parliament again. That's the kind of thing that's happening. My sister-in-law lives outside of Toronto. She owns property in South Carolina. She's been going there for years. Lots of people she knows. She's not going this year. She's afraid to go this year. And this was news to me because I don't hear about this in the United States. But I've checked with a bunch of other family members and friends. And what's happening in parts of the country is that people are putting "Go home, Canadians. We don't like Canadians. We don't want you here. Get out of our country." That's how the United States of America is greeting its closest, its best, its longest neighbor. The neighbor that's come to fight firefights over and over again. The neighbors that have come to help rescue people in floods. The neighbors that helped the United States in Vietnam, in Korea. America seems to have forgot about this. Certainly Donald Trump and the Republican Party. And I don't put all the blame on Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a waste of oxygen as far as I'm concerned. I blame the Republican Party and every person in this country that voted for a Republican candidate. If the Republican Congress didn't support Trump, we wouldn't be here today. We would be much better. I guess I would just like to close to say that I'm really sad, really disappointed that my other country, the United States of America, has gone so far to disavow its friends. You know, as Todd was saying, Canada, Mexico, Great Britain, the European Union, they're all our enemies now. Think about that. Canada, Mexico, England, France, Germany are all the enemies of the United States now. And who are our allies? The ones run by dictators. China, Russia, Turkey. Those are America's friends, according to our leader, Donald Trump. And I'm afraid that there has been so much damage done by this ill will towards our friends that in my lifetime, it'll never be returned again. And you know, it's funny, I listening to Todd and the Do Something, I was hesitant to get up here and speak. My passport, my U.S. passport, I have a Canadian passport, but my wife has an American passport, and it's easier if we both travel on the same passport. My U.S. passport was up for renewal in September, so I sent it in to get it renewed. I'm afraid that somebody in the State Department is going to hear about this, to hear that I did this, and take retribution, and my passport's going to be held up. Thank you very much. Do something.
Thank you so much, Chris. Next up, we have a woman who's not just a local businessman, not just an information security expert, not just a great cheerleader at rallies, but maybe the best good troublemaker I know, Stephanie Sullivan.
Hello, everybody. How are you doing today? You're hanging in there, right? You know, I'm up here. The reason I'm up here is because I care about this country. And you know what? I know you care too, because you're here, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about good trouble. What is good trouble? You know, what is some of the history of good trouble? Good trouble in our community. And then some bottom lines. So, John Lewis is the person who made the term good trouble famous. And we all know about it from him. But the strategy and the tactics that are used in good trouble have been used for a very, very long time. I mean, you can just go back, and the People's Power Revolution in the Philippines was using good trouble tactics. The one that threw over the Marcos regime. The Velvet Revolution in 1989 in Czechoslovakia, same thing. Get rid of the Communist Party, install the democracy. The Monday demonstrations in East Germany that led to the fall of the Berlin Wall. The Orange Revolution in Ukraine in 2004-2005, which threw out the Russian puppet. The one that, by the way, the campaign manager for was Paul Manafort. If that name is familiar, he was a campaign manager for, guess who? Donald Trump as well. So, oh, and when they kicked him out and they went into his palace that he had built, he happened to have gold toilets. Do I see a theme here? And let's not forget that the suffragette movement that got women the right to vote in this country just over 100 years ago, that was also a good trouble strategy rally. Now, they didn't have that name then, but that's what the tactics were. And it was all about peaceful protest, disruption, and building of community. You know, oligarchs, dictators, kings, their focus is all on the word me. You might want to stand beside each other. Right? They're all about me. But you know, they want to divide us so that we all start thinking about ourselves. We start thinking about our me. So they pick groups to act against. They pick like immigrants. They pick the trans people. Whoever. You know, dictators never punch up. They always punch down, just like any bully. So it's important to remember when they strive to divide us, we cannot fall for that. We have to come together because community, what gives us power, what gives us strength, comfort, and solidarity is not about me, it's about we. Right? This country is not about me. This country is about we. Say that. We're about we. Right. You know, the very founding documents from the very beginning are all about we. Our Constitution starts off saying, we the people. So, divide is a central strategy for those that want to take away democracy from us. And we cannot allow that to happen. So, when you talk about good trouble, what things do you talk about? Not everybody can do everything. You know, there are a lot of good trouble strategies. You know, the obvious ones, going out with protest marches and signs and things like that. You know, sit-ins. We don't see that many sit-ins, but we do occasionally. We've seen some instances where our legislators in Washington have done a sit-in or stand-in in the Supreme Court or other agencies, and they end up getting arrested. That's civil disobedience. Boycotts. Withholding business or holding businesses accountable by not patronizing businesses that are against democracy. Service work, That's big. Helping other people, people who need it in our community, because when difficult times happen, they don't hit us all evenly. And as community, we have to come together, because an attack on any part of our community is an attack on all of our community. But wait, there's more. I mentioned civil disobedience. Also lobbying. Make sure your lawmakers know that they're to be held to account. And the more people we bring in, the whole point of growing these protests, making this bigger over time, is that eventually you reach a point where the lawmakers are more afraid of their constituents than the dictator. And that's where we have to go. It has to be sustained. It has to be growing. And we have been growing. Yes, and even feedback agrees. So vigils, rallies, community education. The GAIN group, one of the things we do monthly educational seminars. I hope you consider signing up and coming to those. We have those as educational events. They're usually held at First Parish Church here in Northborough. But they're very informative on specific issues. You know, community education, you know, that's part of that. And then also trying to leverage social media. And the power of social media comes not from us, but from all of you. All of you. We have a responsibility to spread the word, to encourage people to join in. That is so important. So, in short, good trouble builds good community and strong community. And when community comes together, will not be defeated. So, what are some of the bottom lines here? There are many, many ways to participate in good trouble. Not everybody can come out to a rally. Not everybody can march in a protest. Not everybody can do a sit-in. You know, if nothing else, you know, things like rallies and stuff require money. You know, some people, maybe they can't do anything but can donate a little money. And that's very helpful. You know, there's just so many ways that you can help. And every bit counts. Every bit matters. Every bit defends our democracy and our way of life. So, you know, some people feel, and I've heard this more than once, that we have not a lot of chance. They say, oh, you're protesting, what's that going to do? It's the size of protests, the number of people who come out. Not very long ago, about a month, or less than a month, I think, actually, in Hungary, the leader of Hungary, Viktor Orban, darling of the right wing, said, pride parades are banned. No pride parades. What happened in Budapest, in Hungary, the capital of Hungary? Hundreds of thousands of people came out. You know, people in all walks of life. They weren't just people in the LGBTQ community there. Everybody supporting and coming together and building that community. Nobody got arrested. They didn't dare to arrest them. A show of force like that is how change happens. And coming together. So while each of us may feel like we're just a drop in the ocean, you know, we're nothing, that great tsunami that wipes away things, that great tsunami is nothing but a multitude of drops. And when we're together, we're that tsunami. This is a revolution. You know, and we're fighting because this is our country. It's not their country. They want it to be their country. So, there's a few lines from a song, I think, that really capture the moment. And I'll try to sing them to you. And it goes like this. What they call revolution is nothing new. Trample the meek for the mighty few. All for the red and the white and blue. But this is our country too. So, fill your heart with the sentiment that this is our country, and we're not going to give it up. So thank you very much, and join in and be part of all of this. Thank you. And remember, it's about the we.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. Our last speaker for the evening before we have a little fun, Alan Finnegan. Alan is an Air Force veteran and Gaines Poet Laureate. Alan, come on up.
Hey, everybody. You know, they say that they save the best for last. Listen up, because I got something to tell you. Thank you all for coming, first of all. But 50 years ago, I entered the United States Air Force to serve my country and swore an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States from enemies, foreign and domestic. I stand before you to uphold that oath for the love of my country. If you know and understand American history, she has never been perfect, or even so great as some would have you believe. I stand here as a citizen deeply committed to the ideals and values enshrined in our Constitution, but it is up to each and every one of us, united in taking a stand to protect the things we cherish under a democratic society. Our Constitution is the bedrock of our democracy. It was crafted with the foresight of our founding fathers, who understood that a government must be held accountable to its people. They designed a system based on checks and balances, ensuring that no single individual or group could wield unchecked power. But we are witnessing how Donald Trump is usurping the laws of our Constitution, and the danger presents to the American people. He wants to get rid of everything and be number one and tell everyone what they want to do or else. The Constitution is the essence of our democracy, power derived from the consent of the governed, that's us, and a commitment to the rule of law. But as we have seen, Donald Trump makes up his own law. Look what he did to those 1,500 criminals that swarmed Capitol Hill. He released them all. So he says he's a man of law and order. Don't believe any word. Today we find ourselves at a critical crossroad in our nation's history. The rise of authoritarianism and fascism is knocking at our door. Donald Trump is a domestic enemy the founders warned us about, and he is. And the reality is that we must confront it head on. We have seen how fascist ideology has swept into our political discourse. Donald Trump is undermining the very principles that do make our country great. He wants to and is taking the country back, not forward. We are witnessing actions and rhetoric that echo the hallmarks of authoritarianism, disinformation, the erosion of trust in our institutions, and the vilification of dissent. When leaders prioritize their own power over the public good, they sow division and chaos. That is not the American way. Frankly, Trump is following in the fascist playbook. But he does not have full control. Not yet. He doesn't have full control yet. We must worry what will come after, and we have history to look upon for those examples. Are we the people going to let history repeat itself in the country that we love? Fascism is at our door, waiting to burst through. not like a thief in the night, but in broad daylight. Let us remember that democracy is not a given. It requires constant vigilance. It demands our participation and our willingness to stand up for what is right. We must challenge those who seek to undermine our democratic principles for their own gain. We must not let fear, I repeat that, we must not let fear silence us, for it leads to complicity, which leads to capitulation. And we must not surrender our democratic values for the oppression of fascist ideology led by a man who adores and supports the dictators of the world. It is we, the people, all of you, who carry the torch of freedom and democracy to protect America for future generations. We must stand up against the oppression, united. We can do anything. We can move mountains. And we just have to look on our own history for that. We must adhere to the laws of the Constitution and hold our elected officials to the flame of their sworn duty. We, you, all of you, are the hope of America. We, the people, cannot sit idly by and watch the destruction of our country to fascist takeover. We must stand together. We must not fail those brave soldiers, my brothers and sisters in arms, lying in cold graves at Arlington or on the shores of Normandy. They gave their lives, the ultimate sacrifice in the name of freedom and democracy. If fascism wins, ask yourself this: were their lives worth it? We are the last stand, my friends. We stand between fascism and democracy. We have an obligation to our children and their children and theirs. Let us not fail. Thank you. So, in closing, I'm going to recite one of my poems I wrote 20 years ago that has more significance today than when I wrote it then. It's called, If I Could Change the World. If I could change the world to make it just a better place, full of love and no more prejudice or hate, instead of fighting all the bloody wars, we'd be fighting for a better cause. No more poverty or disease, no more prison walls or boundaries, no more anger and no more fear, no more children crying tears, no more lies, deceit, or pain, no more guilt and no more shame, no more wrong and no more hunger. We would help the weak become stronger. No more lies, deceit, or pain. Did I say that? I just said that. No more darkness and no despair. No more blame, no lack of care. No more racism and no more greed. No more sorrow and no more need. No more injustice or insecurity. We would fight for the truth from sea to sea. If I could change the world to make it just a better place, full of love, and no more prejudice or hate, would you come with me? And you? And you? And you? And you over there? Would you all come with me to make that stand as we travel toward the promised land? We'll plant the seed for the future bright, for all to see in the guiding light. If I could change the world. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Alan. Before we close out, some thank yous. I want to thank the Northborough Police Department, the Recreation Department, Department of Public Works, and the Northborough Cable for helping us bring this together. I also want to thank all the businesses and organizations who opened up their parking lots to us. Vertex Innovation, brand new business over there. Specialties Restaurant and Sassy, Crassy, and Creative down there. C'est La Vie Bistro, Andrew Abu Real Estate, and of course First Parish Unitarian Universalist Church and Trinity Church. please join us for GAIN events. We have meetings a couple of times a month. Our next two meetings are Thursday, the 7th of August, and then again on the 21st at the Northborough Historical Society at 5:30 p.m. We hold signs every Wednesday at 5:30, right down the street a little bit here at the corner of Route 20 and 135. Thank you so much to all of our speakers and performers. We had talked about doing a little march after this. It's a little bit on the hot side. It's a little bit draining, so we've decided to not do that today. But please join us for one of our standouts, and we can march up and down Main Street together. To close us out, first we've got one more song from Jim, and then that'll end the program. Thank you so much.
I'd like to just share with you that I got a grant, a National Endowment grant, an NEA grant, 2 years ago. I wonder if we'll see any more of those now, to create and make a big program that's called The Year to Save the Earth. It's a multimedia program with my hardest hitting environmental songs and 400 pictures, and so far they were still pictures, but we're kind of evolving and it's becoming some more videos. We did this in Worcester. It was through the Worcester Arts Council, and I'm taking it all over the country nowadays. If you would like to keep up with Jim's work, jimscottmusic.com. My wish for you, as now we part, is for greater peace to fill your heart with dreams as vast as starry space. So hurt and anger know no place. May truth be shared and wounds be healed, and joy for living be revealed. Through every fate and circumstance, may hope lead weary steps to dance, and may your life be as a song, resounding with the dawn, to sing awake the light, and softly serenade the stars, ever dancing circles in the night. May fears be turned with keen insight to wisdom for what's just and right. Where sorrow grows, compassion strong, and pains will pass before too long. May the bounds of our diversity serve a richer harmony. May courage hold your... I couldn't get it all in there. May courage bring tired steps to dancing, and I don't get it rhymes at the end. And may your life be Thank you, everybody.
May I quickly speak?
Thank.
I wasn't on the agenda.
Okay.
But if anybody wants to do something, there's a couple donation jars over there, and I'm about to visit it.
We've been reminded that we've got some donation jars over there. Signing up for our mailing list. I hope we still have some water. If anyone's thirsty, get yourself a little rehydrated before you head home. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you very much for dealing with the heat. And we hope to see you again soon. Good night.
Mitch.